If there's one thing that we've now learned regarding this terrible year of 2020, it's not even Peter Parker's face is safe from this year. Spider-Man Miles Morales is the latest game coming out of Insomniac Games, and it is the sequel to the Blockbuster 2018 game Spider-Man. And this game is originally slated to be the launching game for the PlayStation 5. However, I don't have a PlayStation 5, so I didn't play this game on PlayStation 5. I played this game on PlayStation 4. A lot of people consider the 2018 Spider-Man game by Insomniac to be one of the best superhero games ever outside of the Batman Arkham Knight series. And so because of that, this second installment, this next installment, this Spider-Man Miles Morales game was very highly anticipated. Now, with that said, this is going to be a non-spoiler review, so you don't have to worry about me giving out any specific plot details regarding the game. The only things that I will bring up regarding the plot are things that they've released in the trailers. Also, if you could do me a favor and web zip to that like button and hit that like button so it can really help out the channel, it would be greatly appreciated. And so as the title suggests, instead of following Peter Parker's Spider-Man, you are following Miles Morales' Spider-Man, as he is the newcomer in town. He's training to be the next Spider-Man. He's training to be Peter Parker's protege. Because if you remember from the first game, the 2018 game, Miles Morales too was bitten by a different radioactive spider. And so this game takes place a little over a year from the ending of the last game. And even before you start playing the game and you just get to the opening title card, you can instantly see that this is going to be a different type of Spider-Man game, because Miles is a different type of person than Peter Parker. And obviously I'm not just talking about his race, but even in just the way he dresses, he is very much New York. He has on his parka, his headphones, and he's wearing some Timberland boots. And even in just the way the game begins, like, it just reminds me very much of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and how he interacts with his community. You hear him speaking Spanish because Miles Morales is Afro-Latino. That's one of the things that I really appreciated about the Into the Spider-Verse movie, and then also in this game, that you had him speaking Spanish. That's something that he didn't really do that much in his origin comics. And so as shown in the trailers, the game pretty much kicks off where Peter and Miles are overseeing the transfer of all the prisoners that escaped in the last game. They're being brought back to the newly repaired prison facility in Marvel Comics known as the Raft. Well, this is a Spider-Man game, and this is the beginning of a game, so things don't go according to plan. And so Miles Morales ends up having to face his first supervillain with his mentor, Peter Parker, when one of those villains, the Rhino, ends up breaking free from his containment unit. Which means Miles Morales isn't on the training wheels anymore. Now this is the real deal Holyfield. And the question is he ready? And the thing that I loved about this game is as you're swinging through New York City trying to stop the Rhino and help Peter Parker, you just notice how different Miles swings compared to Peter Parker. And you can definitely tell there's a difference, not in just the fact that Miles Morales does more tricks as he's swinging, but also on just the fact that he looks like a novice. He looks like somebody that's new to swinging through the air. There's certain points while he's swinging that he's flailing his arms because he loses control of himself. And there was also moments in the game that I really appreciated that they even put in here, where if you're swinging in the air as Miles Morales and you're practicing your tricks, if you don't hit the swing button at the right time, this happens. And I just loved that they included that, because yes, it shows that he is a kid. He is flawed. He is a novice superhero. And he's not an expert swinger like his mentor, Peter Parker, who's been doing this for almost a full decade. He's only 17. He just got his powers a year ago and he's still learning. So I really appreciated just that small little attention to detail that they included when he swings. And plus just the funniness that you can literally have him mess up, something that you don't really see too much in superhero movies or video games. Another another thing that this game infused in terms of the level of detail that they put into this game is this game takes place in the winter. It is the Christmas season in New York City. And while swinging through the city, like, it made me miss Christmas and winters in New York, because truth of the matter is it's been a couple of years since we had like any type of major snow here in the New York, New Jersey area. And while granted, even though I hate shoveling snow and having to travel through snow, there's just something magical about it snowing, especially during Christmas time. That's why there's so many songs about snow. Winter Wonderland, let it snow, let it snow. But with that, this game looks like Christmas in New York City. You see the Christmas lights, you see Christmas trees scattered throughout the town. And when you're swinging through the city at night, like off in the distance, you can even see that they lit up the Empire State Building using the Christmas colors of red and green. And like I said, I bought this game and played this game for the PlayStation 4. And even while you're traveling on the ground, you can even see Christmas decorations on storefronts and even inside the buildings. It's very cool that they paid that much level of attention to detail with regarding this game, and I can't imagine how beautiful it must look on PlayStation 5. And so, like I said, Peter Parker is in this game. Peter Parker is his mentor. He's been the Spider-Man of New York City for the last 8 years, but this is a game called Spider-Man Miles Morales. It's not called Spider-Man, and so Peter Parker is not in this game for long. They had to figure out some way to write him out of the game, and I'm not going to say how, and I'm not going to say why, but yes, throughout this game, Peter Parker is not around. So Miles Morales is the one Spider-Man of New York City. And so because of that, because he's the new kid on the block, Miles has to earn the trust of the city, because like I mentioned, Peter Parker was the Spider-Man for the last 8 years. Peter Parker has gained a trust of New York City, with the exception of J. Jonah Jameson, of course. And so in this game, you have to earn the trust of your neighbors. You have to earn the title of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And so with that, the thing that I loved about this game is when people call for help and you see Miles Morales show up, yes, they're happy that a Spider-Man showed up, but they're still a little disappointed because they're like, oh, I was hoping for the other guy. They kind of dismiss Miles in a way, and they do treat him like a kid because they can tell that he's a kid. He's the trainee of Spider-Man. And so having to play through the game, earning the trust of the community was a cool dynamic that they included in this game. Also, speaking of J. Jonah Jameson does make a return in this game, but the only thing that's kind of disappointing is his podcast doesn't show up as much in this game as in the first game, because Miles Morales, unlike Peter Parker, is not going to torture himself and be a masochist and constantly listen to J. Jonah Jameson. So he actually finds another podcast to listen to who's actually a fan of Spider-Man, and so she is the one that he listens to more often. And while she's cool to listen to, J. Jonah Jameson screaming about Peter Parker being a menace is way more fun and entertaining, and I find myself enjoying those moments way more in the Spider-Man game, and then even when he shows up in this game, than I did the new podcast. And overall, I just really had a blast playing this game. And speaking of blast, like the thing that really differentiated the fact that you have Miles Morales Spider-Man and Peter Parker Spider-Man, Miles Morales has different powers than Peter Parker. One of them being his most powerful ability, which is something that is eventually coined Venom power, and it's basically bioelectricity that's stored within his body. And the Venom power that he has, you can use for a variety of different effects, but chief among them is to take out enemies. Also, just like in the comics, Miles has the ability to temporarily go invisible, which I mostly use to escape hairy situations when I felt like I was about to die, because when I played this game on the hardest level through the first playthrough, which was the spectacular level. So I found myself dying quite a bit or getting close to dying, and if it wasn't for that invisibility power, I probably would have died a dozen more times. Now again, like I said, I'm not going to say anything about the main plot regarding this game, but one thing I will say, it was overall pretty enjoyable, but it was pretty predictable, especially the big reveal. Like I saw that coming from a mile away, but regardless, I still enjoyed the ride with Miles Morales' character. And I had a lot of fun playing this game. Now with that said, like again, yes, I played this game on PlayStation 4, and I don't know if perhaps the same issues existed on the PlayStation 5, but there were a few glitches while playing this game. There was nothing completely game breaking. There are moments where enemies are falling through the air and seemingly stuck that way. No matter what I did, I couldn't get them out of the air. There was also a moment where I entered a bodega after saving a man's cat, and suddenly he has an identical twin, even though that wasn't supposed to be there. And there was also another moment where I was playing as Miles Morales outside of his Spider-Man outfit, and Miles was missing most of his body, and apparently he was missing his clothes too. But eventually, after a few seconds, all of that will load in. And there were other moments where a character would be talking, but you couldn't hear anything, so I had to go back and restart my save. save, but everything will be playing perfectly fine after that. And it was nothing that really took me out of my experience playing the game overall. Now, before I give my rating for this game, I do have to address this because I did bring it up in my intro. And if you've been following gaming news or are even remotely interested in playing this game and have played the first game, you know that for this game and for the remastered version of the Spider-Man game that they're going to be releasing on PlayStation 5, for whatever reason, they completely changed the face model of Peter Parker from the first game to this game. And they took this guy who looks like a 23-year-old, who looks like he could have been Spider-Man for the last 8+ years, and they replaced him with this guy who looks way too young to be playing Spider-Man. Like, there's a scene where him and Miles are both talking to each other and they both look like they're in the same grade. I don't buy for 1 minute that this guy has been Spider-Man for the last almost 10 years. Like, look at him. It's almost like they whitewashed a white guy. Like, I don't like it, but regardless of whether I like it or not, it doesn't really matter because this new face model is here to stay, so I need to get used to it. But because it's the same voice actor, but even hearing that voice coming out of this new guy's face, like, for me, it just doesn't fit. And Insomniac basically tried to explain it by saying, because a lot of people were saying, oh, they just wanted somebody to look more like Tom Holland, that the new face model was a better person to line up with the facial capture of the voice actor or something like that. But I'm just like, but if you were able to make it work for the first game, why is it that you're having a problem with this game? I don't know, but like I said, I might as well get used to it. But yeah, ultimately, nah. And finally, the thing that I would say I love the most about this game is you have not only this AAA game title that's amazing, see what I did there? This game that is just spectacular. Did it again. This game that's giving you the ultimate Spider-Man experience. 3 times the charm. Somebody stop me. But yeah, not only just the fact that this is just a great game, but it's a great game with a black lead. Because more times than not, for the most part, unless it's a create your own character type of video games with black leads are few and far between. Which is sad that it's so rare to get a video game with a black lead. And I don't mean a black character in the game. I mean the game, you are playing a black lead as the character. So that's why I was kind of a little disappointed that this game wasn't as long as the first Spider-Man game, but hopefully this isn't the last time we see Miles Morales getting his own solo game in this universe, and hopefully we get more games starting leading black characters, especially black women, in video games. Now with that said, just like the 2018 Spider-Man game, I would say Spider-Man Miles Morales is a blockbuster. And while yes, I've always been a Miles Morales fan ever since he was introduced in 2011 in the comics. And funny enough, I was such a fan of the character that he was actually the very first cosplay I ever did. I will say that the treatment that this character has been getting, whether it's the Into the Spider-Verse, his current run in the comics written by Saladin Ahmed, and even this game has made me appreciate this character way more than I have when he was first introduced, because they're taking his origin and just making it way better than his origin in the comics, because I have certain problems with the way he was handled when he was first introduced. And I just love how much culture and diversity that they introduced in this game. Like, you have black characters, you have Hispanic characters, you have his best friend who's Asian, you have deaf characters, you have black women, you have white characters. If you're interested in learning more about Miles Morales, I will leave some links down below in terms of some recommended reading material if you are interested. Well, now with that said, that's enough about me talking. The question is, what did you guys think of the Spider-Man Miles Morales game? Have you played it? Are you interested in playing it? What was your first time getting introduced to the character of Miles Morales? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, again, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.